after today's event. And on that note, as time is advancing, it's time to move to ICRISAT. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you're just joining us, hi, wherever you are. You're very welcome to the Marathon Spotlight event, which is taking us on a 13-hour journey around the world. Today, as people celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, we're taking the opportunity to celebrate our own fantastic community of women scientists who are leading the way in a wide range of research and scientific innovation. They're breaking barriers, they're finding new ways to advance the transformation of food, land, and water systems in climate crisis. For those of you I haven't had the chance to meet before, hi, my name is Fiona Farrell. I lead CGIR's function that works to advance gender equity, diversity and inclusion in our global workplaces, or GDI for short. We in the GDI function, we just celebrated our first birthday very recently. We were launched in late January 2020 with a very clear mission to work with leadership and management and staff across CGIR to ensure that our workplaces are really truly inclusive and enabling for our over 10,000 people. Our goal is to ensure that diversity in all its dimensions is embraced and that every person in our workplace has the support they need to reach their full potential. And for us, this is not just the right thing to do, it's really the smart thing to do. We know that diversity can bring the different perspectives and the innovation we need to deliver on our critical mission. The work of the GDI function is guided, as many of you may know, by our GDI framework and action plan. If you'd like to learn more about these important documents or about our knowledge hub or our guides or even our GDI matrix, which is the tool that we use to hold ourselves accountable for delivery on the goals we've set, you can go straight to our GDI webpage and you can see the details on the screen right now. Among the many initiatives we've had the chance to support, the chance and the honor, I would say, to support, has been the launch of a new employee-led resource group called WIRES, Women in Research and Science. And WIRES is bringing together all those in our global community who are seeking to support the incredible women scientists, providing them with supportive and safe places to meet, to learn, to grow, and to advance. And today's event follows on very closely from the official launch of WIRES on the 21st of January. We're recognizing the significant contributions of these women scientists by showcasing a sample of the exciting and innovative work that's going on around CGIR. Now, as we continue our 13-hour journey, we're going to take a second to quickly remind you of a few housekeeping rules. As you can see on the screen, we're also going to remind you that an interpretation function is available for those of you who are new to Zoom and are not used to seeing the interpretation button. It's that circle, that globe image on the very bottom of the screen. We invite you to submit your questions and your comments via the Q&A box, which we're monitoring. And if you have any problems or any technical difficulties, please do feel free to reach out to Thomas. We also invite you to join WIRES. The contact details are on the right-hand side. It is now my great pleasure to welcome the speakers for our fourth Power Hour today. Handing over to Agathe in ICRISAT. You're very welcome. Off you go.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. The ICRISAT session is now starting, and we thank Imi for also passing the baton to us. And we are really delighted to be part of this innovative initiative of WIRES, Women in Research and Science. And we are honored so this morning also to have in this session our Director General, Dr. Jacqueline Hughes, who is also giving our inaugural address. We have speakers coming from all over the world. This morning with us, we have Dr. Vania Azevedo. She's our head gene bank in India. We also have with us today Dr. Pooja Bhatnagar. She's also molecular breeder. And we have in this discussion this morning, Dr. Rebi Arawa, Regional and Research Program Director in Eastern and Southern Africa. She's also country representative in Kenya. So really interesting session ahead of us. And we won't take too much time before we start the introduction, because we have also already 5 minutes gone. And so to start this session, I would like to call upon our Director General, who is joining us today, to please share her welcome address to this session. Jackie, good morning, good afternoon, say in India, and welcome to you.
Thank you. So if I could just start by saying women scientists play an indispensable role in the CGIAR's mission to end hunger by 2030. We're in the forefront. We're not always recognized. Women are 29% of our workforce. Female researchers and scientists power our innovation, but we need support to thrive. So ICRISAT is happy to join the CGIAR family on this 11th of February to celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. The day focuses on the reality that science and gender equality are both vital for the achievement of internationally and nationally agreed development goals. At ICRISAT, we believe that SDGs can be achieved when full and equal access to and participation in science for women and girls happens, and further gender equality and empowerment of women is guaranteed. It's sad that we have to say, should be guaranteed. It should be natural. We never hear the plea for men and boys to have their contribution guaranteed, but perhaps there will be a day that that is so. The recent launch of the new CGIAR employee-led research resource group, my apologies, called WIRES, Women in Research and Science, is a great milestone in this journey. It's also a great example of the innovative ways we're using to explore, to advance gender diversity and inclusion in our work and delivery. The contributions by women and girls in sciences, I believe, and I'm sure you feel, has suffered from stereotypes. There's always a certain kind of woman fitting into a certain kind of men's environment. We've got to increase the visibility of women in research, increase the visibility of women professionals, ensuring voices are not only heard, but listened to, and contributions recognized and valued. This marathon, and marathon it is a great opportunity. And I'd like to thank the Women in Science and Research Employee-Led Resource Group for holding this and asking me to speak. Our panel today highlights the work, the truly excellent work of women scientists and how they're contributing to ICRISAT's mandate. Our first speaker, Rebi Harawai, is looking at how women scientists at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19 have used digital innovation systems to deliver agricultural technologies during the lockdown. Vania Azevedo, the head of our gene bank, will take us through the experience of genetic resources conservation and promotion. And finally, Pooja Bhatnagar will share her experience about molecular breeding. We recognize that initiatives like this knowledge sharing marathon are easy ways for people to get together and to make the workplace more fun, more informative and globally connected around GDI, gender diversity and inclusion. I wish that all our environments were as fun, but let's make the most of this one. This event, this marathon, provides an additional channel through which staff, especially our women scientists, can speak up, share ideas and their unique perspectives. Because it's the women scientists themselves that mainly organize this initiative, I believe it could and should evolve over time to meet not only our current needs and the needs which we've brought with us from the past, but our future needs in a very inclusive manner. I'd like to encourage the Women in Research and Science employee-led resource group that we're talking about to continue this dialogue that we hear in this marathon and to highlight GDI in various fora, as I just did in an event, an ICAR event on pulses with ICRISAT and ICARDA and the Indian Institute of Pulses Research. Do it freely, bring it in whenever you can, the needs of women in science. Focus on it for career development, for our work-life balance, as well as developing mentoring opportunities, which is also simply put as help each other and support each other. So Agath, over to you. I'm looking forward to hearing the first speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie, for really these inspirational words. You are not only our DG, but you're also an inspiration to all of us. Prominent scientists, you are an excellent science manager and a leader in research and development. So please stay with us, and we now introduce a video by Vanya. We changed a bit the order. We wanted to show first the gene bank and the fantastic work that they are doing there to maintain our genetic resource and also promote the use of it. So welcome Vanya. Vanya is the head gene bank. She's based in India. Vanya joined ICRISAT after a rewarding career working in plant genetic research with the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, Embrapa. She has applied her expertise to ensure that crop diversity is entrusted to her and safeguarded. Today she has a video introducing you to ICRISAT Gene Bank and the importance of the resource to the world. So let's see the video that you have, Vanya, and we'll talk after.
Thank you, Agatha. I will share my screen. I hope it works. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
11
crops, 6 of the mandate crops that ICRISAT is working with: sorghum, pear millet, finger millet, chickpea, pigeon pea, and groundnut, and other 5 small millets. Our objective is to maintain the diversity of this material, of these crops, and provide this material to all the users inside ICRISAT and outside ICRISAT, and also outside India.
The ICRISAT Gene Bank conserves the largest collections of germplasm, particularly if you take sorghum. The ICRISAT is the largest collection in the world, and it conserves over 41,000 germplasm accession. It provides diversity to their researchers, that what is needed. We have about 41,000 germplasm accessions of sorghum originating from 92 countries, and we have about 23,000 germplasm accessions of pear millet originating from 52 countries. And we have about 11,500 accessions of small millets, 6 small millets. That 6 small millets include finger millet, foxtail millet, koso millet, barnyard millet, kodo millet, and little millet.
Every season we used to decide how much accessions, how many accessions we have distributed, and how many we have to multiply that accessions, and how many we are having poor viability and poor quantity. Then we will go for regeneration and multiplication.
Actually, some accessions which we are collected as a landrace from the farmers' field, now it is not there. So it's like a backup even for the farmers community, farming community.
Right now, we have conserved around 111,000 accessions are already safely duplicated in Svalbard.
The seeds are there in black box. They still belong to ICRISAT. We are the only ones who can access that material if necessary. But it's a way to have another safety copy of the entire collection in a different country. And every year we have new material, so every year we have to send new accessions to Svalbard to guarantee a copy of the entire collection.
Diversity within crop is required for sustainable agriculture, and diversity among crops is also required for sustainable agriculture for food and nutritional security. So we need to enhance and broaden the genetic base of cultivar to sustain the agriculture.
So that's the main purpose of our gene bank, to maintain the food security of our future generations.
gene banks everywhere are very important in a way to guarantee the conservation of the diversity of the crops. For the scientists to be able to answer very fast to the different demands. So we never know what is coming, and the demands are changing. In the past, we were always focusing yield. Now we are more interested in nutrition. We have a different disease. We have climate change. So how we need to work with this material and make them adapted to the different kind of environments. So gene banks are very important in a way to guarantee the conservation of the biggest diversity as possible to allow us to answer to all these changes and to all these demands. I'm Vanya, and we are the ICRISAT Gene Bank.
Thanks so much, Vanya, for this excellent video on the wonderful work that you are doing at ICRISAT Gene Bank there. We will be right back to you for more questions and insight about your work. But now we'd like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Pooja Bhatnagar. She has a presentation today, which is entitled Enabling Platform Technologies and Advanced Breeding Intervention toward Intractable and Innovative Threat in Crop Breeding. This is really very scientific. We welcome Pooja, and she will be also sharing a slide presentation.
Okay.
Good morning, good afternoon, Pooja. Please over to you for your presentation.
Good afternoon, Agat, and hello, everyone. I'll just try to share my screen.
Yes, please.
If you can please give me a second. I don't know why it is asking me preferences. Oh.
Okay.
Agat, can you do it for me from there, please? Because I have just one slide, because I don't know why it's giving me a problem. I'm unable to share my screen.
Let me try.
Sorry about that.
Please bear with us as we sort this out. Rajani, can you share from your side, please?
Yes, I will do it on my end. Just hold on.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, can see.
Rajni, can you put it on screen, full screen mode, please? Yes, great.
Okay, can you? Okay, I think. All right. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to talk today and share our work. Briefly, what we have been doing at ICRISAT around enabling platform technologies and advanced breeding interventions for future traits or maybe intractable traits for our crop breeding pipelines. Rajni, can you please take me to the next slide? Okay. So before I go any further with what we do here in my lab at ICRISAT, I think Vanya has sort of given a snapshot of how important the uncultivated germplasm is, which is kept in our gene banks, and CG is holding material interests for countries, and there is an international agreement in place for sharing, use, and distribution of this material. I'll be just taking you to the other side of things around, the traits that are really not available in the elite breeding populations, and the breeders, they are not able to sort of tap into the germplasm for some of the future traits in a scenario where we operate as on today, the complex farming systems that face challenges of poverty, malnutrition, and unsustainable use of natural resources. And for that, we would need integrated solutions. So the work that we do in my lab at ICRISAT at the headquarters in Hyderabad is around bringing that kind of, or inducing that kind of variability, which is not available with either the breeders or with the gene bank, for immediate use. So we are involved in essentially developing the basic and applied knowledge to develop the egg biotech and advanced breeding interventions. And before I go any further, as a molecular biologist, I believe that, in order to achieve something that we have never had, it's important to do something that has not been done before. So my team here is, we are striving to integrate the aspects of fundamental biology, tissue culture, genomics, forward and reverse genetic approaches, and now catching up with the advanced breeding techniques, or what you also know as new breeding techniques, to produce agriculture crop products by design. So these are more future ready, and they can be deployed in the future breeding pipelines. And what we do here is, using the cutting edge tools and technologies, we improve the genetics of the crops, include crops that we term as GLDC crops like chickpea, pigeon pea, groundnut, sorghum, and pearl millet, for future readiness, and of course for contribution to sustainable agriculture, poverty reduction, nutritional impacts towards the SDGs. So what we do here is sort of bringing what we have in the gene bank closer to the breeding material, what the farmers would eventually have as varieties growing in their field. So it aligns the breeding priorities, of course, bringing innovative solutions for accelerating the varietal development for these very important food and nutritional security crops. And over years, my team, in collaboration with various national and international partners, both in public and private sectors, have demonstrated breakthroughs in tackling a number of seemingly very difficult, or what we also call intractable problems, that have eluded conventional plant breeding approaches for several decades. So that has been our constant effort to bring these solutions to the forefront, and so that they can be deployed by the breeding pipelines. And some of these examples, the work that is going on in the lab, includes targeted interventions for striga resistance in sorghum and pearl millet, aflatoxin mitigation in groundnut. In pigeon pea, we are doing some very basic work on tailoring the reproductive plasticity to make early flowering or photoperiod insensitive pigeon pea varieties to produce elite cultivars that are geographically adapted, so that they are not just grown in one niche, but they could be sort of expanded to future niches as well. And besides that, in terms of output traits, we are working on traits like increasing the shelf life of a nutri-cereal like pearl millet, which is a very healthy cereal. However, it has an issue of shelf life of a milled flour, and that is being addressed to improve not only the to sort of support interventions for reducing the drudgery for the women of the households, but also to link this very important gluten-free cereal to the markets, and sort of bring it closer to the value chains. So these are some of the examples that we have been working around, playing around with the genes, with the DNAs, and sort of having cutting edge technologies being deployed for varietal development. Besides that, we also have, in a quest of speeding the pace of the biotech and gene editing trade pipelines, we have been trying our hands on developing the rapid cycling methods for the crops. This is much close to the work that the breeders do to accelerate the vegetative to reproductive transition. And since every crop is unique in its way, how it responds to the set of environmental parameters, we mimic the right set of light, temperature, humidity to convince the plant to really grow faster, much faster than it usually does, and at a higher density to reproduce quickly. And not only it enhances the cycle of the plant, it also significantly shortens the breeding cycle, somewhere around 40 to 50% of what a variety development would otherwise take if we go the conventional way. So this is what we call at ICRISAT as rapid gen method, a rapid generation cycling method in conjunction with a range of breeding acceleration techniques has a potential to take advantage of modern methods to increase the crop genetic gains. So this is a nutshell what we have been doing in our lab. And not only we have successfully developed tools and technologies for research and innovations for ICRISAT mandate crops, we are cognizant about our engagement with partners and stakeholders on integrating the discovery research that is being done in the lab to the translational research activities, including risk assessments, regulatory and stewardship aspects, and to be able to provide the additional dimensions and responsibly maturing the innovative genetic solutions for agriculture. That is definitely going to be the need of the hour as we move forward. So that's all from me. Thank you, Agat. Agat, you are muted.
Sorry. We want to know more about your expertise in this field, so we'll come back to you for more questions. And before that, I would like now to go into more presentation, this time with Rebi Arawa. She's our Regional and Research Program Director in Eastern and Southern Africa. And I'd like to hand over to Rajani this time to guide us through the discussion or the presentation with Rebi Arawa. Rajani, over to you, please.
Okay, so welcome, Dr. Rebi. As Agat mentioned, Rebi is the Regional and Research Program Director of Eastern and Southern Africa. And today she's going to tell us a little bit about how they used digital innovations to deliver agricultural solutions in Kenya. Over to you, Rebi. Welcome.
Yes, we shall share the screen of Rebi for Rebi this time also.
Are you going to screen it? Are you going to share the screen?
Yes,
thank you very much for the introductions. Before I get into sharing our work around digital innovation and how we have been able to deliver agricultural technologies during the COVID-19, I just want to briefly say about myself in line with the theme, Women in Science. I am a soil scientist by training. I've been involved in the development of soil fertility technologies. Soil fertility is a very critical element in crop productivity, particularly here in sub-Saharan Africa, where the average crop yields are actually 35% of the world average. Coming to my role at ICRISAT, I'm responsible for leading and management the ICRISAT research program here in Eastern Southern Africa. And we have worked around crop development, crop technology development, but also the development of integrated agronomic solutions. So the work that my colleagues have said earlier on, we also have similar work taking place here in Eastern Southern Africa. Very critical for areas in this part of the world In countries like East Africa, Kenya, we have nearly 80% of the land which is classified as arid and semi-arid. So crop technologies, for example, the drought-tolerant crops, they play a very critical role when it comes to food, nutrition, security, but also income. And as I mentioned, integrated soil agronomic solution on integrated watershed management is also very critical. We also play a role in development of seed delivery models. The technologies that we develop, we don't just develop varieties and put them on the shelf, but we also work in partnership with public and private sector to make sure that these varieties are reaching the smallholder farmers, most of which are women. So we have a lot of models that we have developed that are working really to make sure that improved varieties are in the hands of the farmers. And finally, the area of enabling environment for the R&D. This is around markets, but also policy research. This is very critical in ensuring that the research that we are doing is actually working in an environment that is able to create sustainability of natural resources, but also the livelihoods. With those few introductory remarks, I just want to share at this point, as I mentioned, that we are working on facilitating the delivery of technologies. I think this is in line with this year's theme, which is women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. I thought that I could share with you practically some of the solutions that we have been able to apply in a COVID-19 situation, which I think took the world by surprise. So with that, I like to share with you a few slides that I have.
Shall we go?
Yes, please.
Oh. Do you see the slides?
I can't see them.
Oh.
No, not yet, Agatha.
So as Agatha is trying to tweak the technology, just to say that here in Kenya, when we had the COVID lockdowns, which started in March, it was at the very critical stage of agriculture. It was at a time when the main cropping season was starting. And this is the time when farmers, they need to have access to seeds. And as you know, that the lockdowns continued from March to almost part of the year. So you are basically looking at the whole cropping cycle. Beyond accessing seeds, they need to have extension advisory. They need to be guided on the agronomy, the spacing. They need to be guided on the weeding. And throughout the whole cropping season, they also need to get a place where they need to sell their crops. So it's everything that has to do with agriculture found itself in these lockdowns. I think most of the movements in this, in the city were basically restricted. And most of the people basically that provide all the solutions that we are talking about, the extension advisory services, we are not able to do it. But because of the digital innovations that we have, I think we are able to reach out to smallholder farmers by providing them the digital solution, by providing them the agricultural advisory services that we are talking about. So I can now see the slides. Can you put them in a presentation mode?
Yes, I'm doing that now.
Okay, great. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the digital for agriculture is another area that ICRISAT is focusing on. Our objective is to have a better, faster, and cheaper delivery through digital technologies. And this cuts across all the areas of the R&D that we are doing, from breeding informatics, analytics, to delivering data on real-time mobile devices, digital services, GIS, internet. So it encompasses all the work that we are doing. Next slide. So as I mentioned, that we are taking unawares, like in our case here, we are implementing a project in partnership with government, CGIR centers and private sector, where we are accelerating value chain development of drought tolerant crops. For example, the legumes like pigeon peas, and also cereals like sorghum and millets. So as I indicated, this came at the lockdowns came at a time when farmers needed to start planting, and we were able to deliver information in terms of climate, weather. It's very critical in the areas where we are working because of the rainfall situation. We are always, we are required to guide farmers. What week should they plant? What day should they plant? And how should they plant? And that information, we were able to deliver it through our digital platforms. But going further, even delivering the good agronomic practices, guiding them in terms of all the agronomies that are required, market information, but also the nutrition information. I think most of you are aware that COVID, at the very beginning, it was very clear that people need to have good nutrition in order to have resistance in their bodies. And so it was very critical that this information should be able to reach the communities that we work with. So by the end of the year, we are able to, the cropping season, we are able to deliver, several messages, 900,000 SMSs with a lot of interaction between the extension staff as well as the farmers, reaching out to 22,000 households, out of which 60% were actually women. And with these messages, you can see that they were able to cascade them on the nutrition aspect, even bringing the other communities to where they were able to share this information. So in a nutshell, this is what I wanted to share in how we have been able to use our innovations to advance the agricultural technologies during this COVID-19 lockdowns here in Kenya. Thank you very much. Over to you, Agatha.
Thank you so much, Rebi. We are now going into our discussion, our moderated discussion. So you will be coming back again and discuss with us. And let's start the discussion with Vania. I remember she presented the video on the gene bank work at the very beginning of this session. And you also did some work during the COVID-19 time, as Rebi also was doing in Eastern and Southern Africa. So Vania, we would like also to hear from you about your work, especially during COVID-19 time. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Agatha. It was very interesting and challenging, I can say. So at the gene bank, as was very clear in the video, we need to conserve the accessions to guarantee that the research, the agriculture research, will continue and will happen all around the world. Our gene bank has a very big responsibility with the crops that we conserve. we already distributed accessions to 148 countries. So we can say that the entire world depends on us to develop agricultural research on these crops. And our biggest responsibility at the Gene Bank is to guarantee that the seeds will be there, well conserved, alive, and able to be used no matter what is happening and how challenging the situation is. So we were very lucky during the COVID time because of the ICRISAT infrastructure. So we could put some staff living inside the ICRISAT. We had 14 hectares to harvest, new accessions that came from Africa. We had a few hundreds of accessions that had just arrived from Africa. They were in the field and from our regional gene banks, most of them. And if we didn't harvest them, we were going to lose them. And lots of materials being regenerated. So we had a task force, a workforce. Even my husband went to the field with us to harvest the materials. Peter Carberry was our DG during the lockdown. Even Peter was going to the field. He used to message and say, I have a free day. Where are you now? I'm gonna help you harvest. So you will not lose any of the accessions because our responsibility is with all the scientists working with our crops. We could manage. We have a very good team. Interesting that the entire gene bank team is 51 staff, including in Zimbabwe and Niger, not only in India, and we are only 10 women. All the other are men. But it's a very dedicated team, and we could manage well, and we didn't lose a single accession. But it was really, really challenging.
Yeah, excellent work, Vania. I actually saw you and your team during this time on the field on social media, and it was really great to see on various ways that you are still on the field at this very difficult time. So let's also see and hear more detail from Rebi. You mentioned about a very innovative way that you used during this lockdown, using digital technique and to do your work during this lockdown. So please, what was so specific during this time, Rebi?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Likewise, we had to make sure that business continued. So apart from delivering the technologies to the communities, the smallholder farmers, we made sure that even in our own work, in our own research fields, there was also continuity of business. And one of the critical things was, of course, making sure that the health and the safety of staff was very critical. So as you would imagine, our work involves sitting in the lab, but also going to the research field. So one of the things that we really made sure is that all the workforce, they were well equipped with the PPEs that you all know now what a PPE is. But also we made sure that we used all the digital platforms. As I mentioned, I think in terms of our work, we have made sure that we have digitized every part of our R&D. So for example, if you talk about data collection, a lot of the information was really, you harvest data and you enter it immediately and then you transmit it, to the next scientists, to the next field technicians. But we also made sure that we had to use these platforms, literally where you're talking to somebody who is sitting in the field, 100 miles away from where you are. And I think that really worked very well. And of course, once in a while with social distancing, we had to make sure that people were on the ground. But even more importantly, I think the partnership that we have established in our research networks, because we are working with the national partners, the private sector partners, most of them in those locations where they had some movements allowed, I think they were able to backstop our research work. So partnership really worked very, very, very well, adding on to the technologies that we have just talked about. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rebi. We'll now also turn to Pooja, but before I just like to remind people that the translation is still available into French for those who are listening into that language. And Pooja, we'll get back to you about the science that you are really doing wonderful work at ICRISAT. We had this question when we were just preparing this session. What is one of the most important lessons you've learned as in your journey as a woman scientist? What you actually presented is really excellent work, but for a woman, there might be also some challenges that you have faced in the journey before we see you as who you are today. We'd like to know more about that.
Okay, thank you, Agathe. Before I answer that question, actually, I would like to just say that it's the attitude that's the foundation of success. And attitude is not like a handkerchief, like his or hers. So, attitude is attitude, irrespective of what the gender is. And so I believe, and I have been, raised in a family of all girls. I believe that, being tenacious and dogged towards your goals and aspirations is what a women scientist, or for that matter, any woman, must strive for. So that is something I strongly believe in. And now coming to your question on, what's an important lesson? I think, I have myself faced what we call an assertiveness penalty. And I feel the women scientists, who really breach the gender stereotype, they do face a backlash. And that really puts them in a very tenuous position. It's a conundrum, because traditionally men, it's assertiveness is seen more as a men's forte, but I believe that assertiveness is something that's required among women now. And otherwise we will be just continue to seen as backstage workers who run the risk of their voices being ignored. So what I have learned because of these experiences all these years, right from childhood actually, and also in the professional sphere now, is that I've learned that navigating that assertiveness backlash, I like to call it, is although very tough, but it's extremely critical. And it's important that the women scientists integrate assertiveness with fluidity, and that is very helpful in bringing the ability to dynamically steer the decisions, and the decisions then seem to be more aligned with the sustainable results. So I have seen it for myself and a lot of other female colleagues, and also the mentors who have really shared their experiences for that. And also I was a part of a CGIAR women leadership course, and I have learned quite a bit. I know I've done that course with you, in fact, Agathe. And not only, I have picked this and I try to do it as much as possible. And this has helped me in not only utilizing my talent more effectively, but it also brings a clarity of purpose. And, and it keeps on, and the perseverance you would need to really going all that distance that you need to cover. So I believe that is, I can say one, that's something that I would like to.
Thanks so much, Pooja. I do remember this course, and yes, I now hand over to Rajani. I think she has more questions in the same line to the panelists again.
Yes, I do. It was fascinating what Pooja had to say about the assertiveness backlash. That's a good term that you put, but I believe a lot of women face that. My question is to Rebi. Rebi, having reached where you have today as a senior scientist, what do you feel are the biggest challenges that women and girls in science face? I mean, from your experience and looking at other women scientists who you might have worked with, what do you think are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, first of all, I think we have to remind ourselves why we need women and girls in science. in the global South, we are talking about between 60 and 90% of women engaging in agriculture productivities, but also have the responsibility of providing, services in the homes, from water, energy, and sanitation. So it's very critical that we have scientists who are women to understand these areas where women are playing a very critical role. We need a science that applies a gender lens in all these aspects. Now, in my own experience, I think one of the areas where we are really having challenge is in the area of mentorship. The African Academy of Science, they carried a study and they found out that actually women role model, they play 24% of the influence of women or girls to be in science comes from women role model. So those of us who have now reached this level, we need to make sure that we are playing that role of mentorship. I think every woman who is in this platform today, we should ask ourselves at this point, how many women, how many girls am I mentoring? Everyone needs to have a target goal. In my lifetime, before I retire, I have to have X number of women, girls that I'm going to move together. That doesn't mean that men should not do it, but I think women, we play a very critical role. The other area is bias and discrimination. Let's face it, we live in a very patriarchal society, particularly here in Africa. There is always preferential treatment for the boy, for the man, and all the gender stereotype. We have again to get to a place where this stereotype, we should face it. Let's have a culture, a society which is very open. I know that in most societies, we don't want to talk about this biasness, but unfortunately, because we don't talk about it, we find that people carry this when they are going to their careers. Again, I want to quote a study which was carried out by the National Academy of Science, Engineering and Medicine. They actually found out that 20 to 50% of the female students, they were harassed sexually. This is a study. And where did this come from? Faculty, their supervisors. Why? Because the society doesn't want to face this head on. So we all have a responsibility at every point. And those of us who are in this leadership role, those of us who are at a point where we can influence the society, I think we have to be very open, we have to be very candid, have this conversation. In our coffee breaks, let's make this as a topics of discussion to make sure that it gets out of people's head. No biasness, no gender stereotypes against women and girls. Over to you.
Thank you, Rebi. That was a great and very impassioned response. And I'm sure all of us were nodding our heads when we heard your statements. So taking off from that question, I would further like to ask, and this time I would like inputs from all three of our panelists, starting maybe from you, Vanya, and then Pooja, and then Rebi can add on. What do you think, or where do you see, how do you see organizations and research centers evolving in such a way that they are more supportive of women and girls in science? What should they be doing more? What do you think? And in the interest of time, I would request you to keep your answers short and to the point. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rajani, for pointing this out. We only have a few minutes, and let's also be very short because our DG is still here with us. We want to hear from her before we conclude. So please.
Well, from the Institute's perspective, I think it's important that people started considering it as one of the goals of the Institute, right? The gender balance, and to discuss, to highlight how important this is. But I'm still waiting to see more effective actions, because just to put there the gender balance and the gender platform or whatever, it will not solve the issues and all the things that we go through on a daily basis, right?
Implementation is also important.
Yeah, the stereotype is there. If we are too strong, we are hysterical. If we are too emotive, we are just a woman who is too emotive. So there is always this bias with women. And I'm still here because I decided to ignore and continue working, because I know what I'm doing and I know that I'm good in what I'm doing. And here I am now. But this is there on our daily work. And so more than talking and having platforms and an event like this, that I believe that 90% are women, so we are just talking to ourselves. We are not, most probably not reaching most of the men, which are the majority of the CGIAR. But it's a start, but it's a very small start. We have much more to do.
Great, thank you. Pooja, your take on this?
I think I agree with what Vanya said. You know, if you really want to have a great party, we just don't need to invite people. We also need to make them dance somehow. And, you know, it's important, right? You know, while we have these quotas of bringing more and more women in organization, there are policy level decisions happening, which is a good beginning. But we also need to make sure that there is a need to create a culture in the organizations that facilitates women scientists and women professionals in navigating the systems which are actually historically designed for men. So, you know, that kind of a cultural change is important. And I believe, you know, that is something that the next level of, we are having this conversation, and that's probably is the next level of evolution.
Okay.
Great.
So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are facing really constraint of time. So for the sake of time, I would like to ask maybe the latest question to our Director General, and she will also conclude our meeting. Dear Jackie, what something you feel a young scientist needs in order to succeed in science and career, and perhaps in life also? And we also mentioned about this gender bias, and also what the institution need to do. So please, over to you to advise.
Thank you, Agathe. I've got 4 very short points. All the ICRISAT staff know that I'm very short and sharp in what I say. The first one, be confident in what you know and in what you believe. The second one, be yourself. Don't try to be something or someone that you are not. What you are and who you are is really precious. A plea to all the women here: watch recruitment very carefully. Never let men or women put women as the first choice candidate if they are not. That's even worse. And when the woman finds out she was in that position because she is a woman, that is so patronizing and impossible to live with. And lastly, remember that diversity is very important. Women are different, be different, and revel in it. Thank you, Agathe.
Thanks so much. So brief, so powerful. And I also like to thank our panelists. Really, Jackie, thanks for staying for this long hour with us. And thank you also to Arawa, to Vanya, to Pooja, and also to Rajani, who is co-moderating this event with me. It has been a great pleasure. And if you have more questions, we couldn't take the questions, so please send an email to us and we shall reach out to you. It may take a while, but sure that we answer to you. Thank you very much for attending the session. I also thank Amy, who passed the baton to us. I saw the message of Raquel before this. She was wishing us the best luck for this session. So thank you very much, and have a good day, good evening, and over to you, Fiona.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much to Jackie and Vania and Pooja and Rebi and Agatha and Rajani for a really enjoyable and enlightening session. From where I sit, having been in all the sessions, it's amazing to see that there are some common themes that are continuing to rise throughout the discussion. And one of them is really the importance of role modeling and mentoring. That's been brought up, I think, in almost all of the sessions. But I mean, also some really important points there around bias and discrimination and I like the phrase assertiveness penalty. Really nice point there as well. And thanks so much, Jackie, for that great advice. Merci beaucoup also to our great interpreters, Helene and Isabel.